All right, Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to the first Ambient Weekly Contributors meeting on January the 3rd. We have Keith talking about architectural proposal review. Keith? You're on mute.
All right, there you go. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, first, Happy New Year, everybody. If I didn't see you in the meeting, great to see everybody. Hope everybody is rested and had a great time. The first topic that I put this topic on the agenda to kind of try to touch base with everybody around a lot of the discussions that we've been having in the community with respect to ambient specifically. There's a lot that started kicking off toward the end of last year. A lot of proposals around some of the ambient architecture. And so I think what might be useful to kind of level set for our first meeting of the year would be to just understand what proposals are in flight and figure out what the open questions are and determine what the proper order of operation should be for tackling these things. Because a lot of these are interconnected, right? I've got 3 docs listed here. If you know of more, something that I missed as far as architectural proposals, then please add them. I know that there's work going on around sandwiching and things like that that might be relevant here. But I think that a lot of these are interconnected. And so the goal here for this topic is to just try to see, maybe get the owners of these docs, folks who have worked on it last. I think Louis and John have had their hands in most of these. But if we can get a sense for what are the open questions and the blockers for each of these proposals, that'll help us to understand where we need to have people owning and working on this. And hopefully that culminates in some sort of beta announcement for Ambient at KubeCon EU. I know that several folks have been mentioning that as a goal, and I think it's a good thing for the project, even if, I don't think we'll be at beta quality by that time release-wise, but if we can at least say the next release for Ambient will be beta, I think that's also an acceptable outcome. So does that make sense? Are we good with that plan, getting that list together? And then if so, can we get owners of those docs to chime in and kind of give us a status update?
Yeah, I think it definitely makes sense to me, Keith. Thanks for bringing this up. I actually also wanted to discuss, how I prioritize in terms of what we can claim as the immediate beta, and how can this doc impact that portion if that immediate beta is layer 4, right? What's the impact for layer 4? Can we prioritize decision making on those first? Unfortunately, Louis is not on the call though. I know I think he did some class on some of the docs, and I just got back, so I haven't really been updated on the doc. I don't know, John, do you want to update us on anything that's contingent?
I haven't looked at it since before the holidays, so I need to do a refresh.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's the call to action. It is day 2 after coming back from, for a lot of us, I'll extend it holiday. So maybe that's the call to action here, is if folks can go through. I'm part of that group. I need to go through and reread some of these and get the details back in my head. But if I think rather than litigating the implementation details of each, if we can kind of try to distill each doc down to a set of questions, and who the decision makers are for those questions, then that'll help us be able to move quicker. To your question, as far as L4 only, Lynn, I think that a lot of these, from all of these that I can see, actually, each one of them has they're so core to the ambient architecture that they're going to have implications for L4 and L7. So I know it's intimidating to see these 3 docs here, but I think unfortunately kind of all of them would be beta blockers from my understanding. Not to say there's not a subset of information in each doc where we can maybe abbreviate, but in order to make sure we don't cut ourselves off when we're trying to extend up to L7, we probably need to get a pretty good sense of the architecture to some degree for both before we're able to ship L4 for beta. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that
Agree,
makes sense.
disagree?
Thank you. A little bit afraid of what I want to hear, but that does make sense. On the architecture side, we need to kind of layer for layer 7, even though we're not claiming layer 7 for beta.
Are there any specific folks that we want feedback from for each one of these docs, or is it just broadly to all of the community?
Well, I think the first question we need to ask each of the owner, what are the key decisions we need to make? So many of these docs are super long, because I know at one time before the holiday, I opened up one of the doc, and after reading for quite a while, I realized I was reading not the most recent portion. So
That's another good call to action, is that if there's I own one of those and I think Louis already switched that one in particular, but if you own one of those docs, make sure it's up to date and that the primary proposal is first in the doc. That will help folks be able to review and get that context a bit easier.
yep, totally
Hey,
agree.
I have a terminology question. Lynn, when you said that, it is likely that we will, quote unquote, not support L7, I think you mean it'll either be alpha or experimental
Right. Yeah.
where
It's just layer 4 for beta, and layer 7 you can still use it. It just may not be beta.
so what
Thanks
is
for
the
that
difference
clarification.
what is the difference between experimental and alpha?
Well,
Which and what
right
will
now,
L7?
right now, layer 7 is already alpha, right? The entire ambient is alpha, right? We're not going to go back to experimental, right?
Oh, okay. So experimental is even lower and even more speculative, and I still see quite a
Yeah,
few things in regular sidecar Istio which are still in the experimental bucket. But what you're proposing is some amount of L7 functionality as alpha and a greater amount of L4 functionality as beta.
that's at least what I would like to hope to see. And I know some of you are convinced. I actually added as a topic for today, just to see if we have some consensus on, focus on layer 4 functionality. And we can continue working on layer 7, but given the timeline, it's going to be super hard to announce beta for KubeCon EU. Is everybody kind of in agreement in that, or is there any contention for that?
I think just put a stake in the ground, L7 will be alpha, X amount of L7, Y amount of L4 will be beta, and the task remaining is precisely list the subtopics under each of these, which will be, because there will presumably be other L4 functions which may not quite make beta, right? It's not like this is all the L4 we will ever do. So if we agree, let's put a stake in the ground. Yeah, it's beta L4 for beta, L7 alpha. I don't know what goes into the experimental bucket, and the task is listing out the sub bullets under these. And I agree with
Yeah.
what he said that in many cases L4 and L7 will be intertwined.
Yeah, and we do have a doc, as everybody knows, right? Drive ambient mesh to beta. So that doc kind of I think we spent time to identify what's relevant for layer 4. So let's continue to iterate on that doc if anyone have any comments.
When is KubeCon EUR again?
I believe it's the 3rd week of March, I think, like March 20th.
That's right, March 19th through 22nd.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
thank
then
you.
we'll only have 121 by then.
But we can do some, like, the KubeCon EU date is really, from a project perspective, a marketing thing. So we can use a marketing technique and just say the upcoming release will have ambient secure transport layer, or L4, set to beta.
Okay.
Beta stability. And so
Then we should change the lingo here. This is not what we can ship for beta for the KubeCon EU timeline. This is what we can announce as what we can announce that these features will be in beta.
That's fair, though we could potentially cut a build too, right? For the upcoming 1.22, there's nothing
Like a
prevent us
preview
to
build,
do
right?
that.
Not a
Yeah,
release. What does Microsoft call them? Release candidates?
right.
exactly. Agreed.
I'm just looking at dates here because 121 release date is February the 19th. If we're talking about early March, it's a little early to cut a release candidates because release candidate, in my mind, because I came from Microsoft, the release candidate in my mind has certain quality assurance behind it, in that we've at least tested it to a certain extent. We're talking about a span of 2 weeks between 121 release to when a RC for 122 with these features in a beta state. So timing wise, it may or may not work out. Tech preview, we can say that.
Yeah, again, like we can call it really whatever we want. Like we could call it the KubeCon release if we really wanted to, the KubeCon preview. The key is, from a technical perspective, we can ship a build that is publicly accessible and call it X. But what that allows us to do is it allows us to have all of the marketing, the hype, and continue to build the momentum around ambient being beta here, try it out, and we can do all of that regardless of that's possible. That's a solvable problem.
Okay, that the scope is it. Did I just capture what we discussed here?
Yeah, and I guess I would add like single cluster, all the other stuff in the doc, so just everybody knows.
Single cluster only.
Single cluster, probably single network, just small focus scope, get it out first.
Okay. Are we good here?
Yeah.
I'm assuming silence means consent.
Yeah, I don't see any objections. So sorry, Yuval, I jumped a little bit ahead of you. Did you want to do a quick in-pod checking?
Yeah. I'm getting people asking me questions on Slack, so I was wondering if people have any issues or so far everything running well. If people looked at the code and have feedback. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can hear
we hear
you.
you.
Oh, and
Yeah,
also
was
you
a bit,
addressed the comments from Mitch, sorry, Sanjeev, about the egress bypass mitigation. I guess you have a POC branch.
Yeah, you can take a look. It's basically an eBPF program that blocks binding for Z-tunnel ports for sockets that are not marked with the Z-tunnel mark. So it's a pretty basic, but it should be effective against pods that don't have netadmin. The kind of trade-offs that it a little bit overshoots. So if there's anything else in the node, even if it's not in the mesh that uses the Z-tunnel ports, it'll fail, which I think is reasonable.
That sounds good. I'll have a look at it.
Don't all the sidecars use those ports as well?
Then we can do one of two things. We can either make the sidecar use the mark, and we can change the ports, or I can try and figure out. We need a certain way to say, this app is allowed to use this port, right? Again, we can take this offline. It's more of a POC type deal. I'm not going to merge it in the current change sets.
from my side, I did play with it some more in the early part of the holidays, but didn't get to it last week. So hope to get more into the code. The testing kind of looked good. Sridhar and others have also been testing, so maybe they can as well comment. But so far it's been okay. But we haven't, at least I haven't really reviewed the code.
Thanks so much for the updates, Sanjeev.
Yeah, I also tested it. I saw that the whole introduction to it, like it follows the same page, and so you're able to set everything up with the authorization policy and everything, and so that looked pretty good. Just FYI.
Nice. And you are using Calico, is that right, Andre?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I will commit to finishing my review of the code by end of day today, early tomorrow. Holidays got crazy, so I'll commit to finishing my review beginning Pacific time tomorrow.
Oh, thank you, Keith.
Yeah, thanks so much, Keith.
All right. I mean, so far so good. If there's anything else, obviously you can hit me up on Slack. Yeah, I think I'm good. Lynn, do you have anything to add?
No, that's great. Thank you.
All right. So those are the three on the agenda. Does anyone else have topics to discuss?
It's not really fleshed out, but I have a partially written doc on using JWTs as a method for propagating identity and metadata for the sandwich.
Stephen, you want to put that on the agenda for
Yeah.
next meeting? Yeah. Speaking of next meeting, so Lynn, I believe this is now done. Can we delete it? The one
Yes.
highlighted. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to mention is that we would like to start the Istio office hours. I know this is a generic Istio thing, not just Ambient. Either next week or the week after next, and I would like to set up a pipeline of SMEs who can, provide some answers. And unanimously, John, we would like you to be the first SME. So, are you available either on the 11th or the 18th to be the SME in a STO office hours? And we want to set up a series of follow-up office hours with SMEs signed up for, let's say, the next at least 2 months. So please,
Sanjeev, do you have a sign-up sheet anywhere?
I'll create one. I'm actually still recovering from COVID, so not quite recovered from the vacation, but I'll put that together later this week. And if we can either start the following week or the week after that, that would be great. I'll create a sign-up sheet. But John, please let us know if you're available for the kickoff one.
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Are there any other topics? Going once, going twice, going 3 times, and if not, let's call this meeting adjourned. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Take care.